On today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Beg your pardon, I'm kind of out of breath. Just did some push-ups before I went live, just to kind of get my energy level up a bit, but didn't leave enough of a gap, so beg your pardon. So today, we're going to talk about EOS just a little bit, because the token distribution closes today. We're going to talk about LiteCoin has been added to vrporn.com as a payment option. $500 million of Ripple has been lost due to the death of a millionaire who had $500 million of Ripple, and then it was the only person that had the key to his wallet and has now died, and his family can't get hold of it. Then we'll do a market roundup, including a quick Deutsche Bank watch. And then I've got a very special introspection section, which if you want to stick around for that, that's going to be at the end. So that's pretty much the TLDR. If that's all you want to know, you can skedaddle. But otherwise, let's get into it. I'm going to be doing a market roundup and technical analysis on Bitcoin, EOS, and then I'll take a user request. So for anyone who's in the chat already in the live stream, the first coin that I see a request for, I will do a live off the top of my head technical analysis on whichever coin you good people request. Okay, so A, that proves that it's live, and B, that also proves that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to technical analysis. So let's begin. The EOS token distribution closes today. It's about 12 noon in the United Kingdom, so we're about, 10 hours away from the close. In fact, let me show you my first resource of the day. You may have seen this before. It's eosscan.io. And this is sort of a way of monitoring the token distribution without having to actually access the official site. The reason you might want to do that is because the official eos.io website, it looks at your IP address, and if you're coming from the United States or from China, it blocks you from entering it because you're not allowed to buy EOS tokens from the token sale if you're a US citizen or a Chinese citizen. So it just flat out will not let you access the site. But if you want to monitor what's going on anyway, you can hop over to this site, eosscan.io. Now, this is not an official, Block One or EOS site, by the way. It's purely for reference for the data. So this countdown here is this has been operating the whole token sale, but it says here period 350 will end within, and it says 11 hours 55 minutes as of right now. So it's near enough 11 or 12 midnight in the UK, which is UTC time. I think we're at +1 daylight time right now. Now it says here that the price of an EOS token is 99 cents, but it's because just the way the token distribution works, you have to wait for the end of the period, and then the price is worked out, 2 million tokens divided by how much ether was, pledged during that period. So period 350 that it says here, which ends in 11 hours and 55 minutes, that's the final distribution period, right? If I show you the site again, you can scroll further down to get more detail on this. This table here under sales summary, this is exactly what it looks like inside the token distribution app, which is the thing you can't access if you are a US or a Chinese citizen, or at least accessing the site from China or the USA. So these are the daily individual ICO periods, and right at the bottom is period 350, which is the final one that closes in just over 11 hours. So I was thinking I'd quite like to just stick a little tiny bit of ether into the final segment, just for the symbology of it. It'd be quite nice to participate in the very final EOS token distribution period, just for posterity, really. So what will happen at the end of this day, within 12 hours, the token distribution will end. That means that the 2 million EOS tokens that were entering the market on a daily basis for the last year will end. Okay? So they will stop coming. No more EOS tokens will be created after that until the mainnet launches and then blocks start to be produced. And at that point, the block producers will get block rewards, which is newly created EOS. So there's going to be a gap in between midnight tonight, UK, and when the network is live, which may be several days, maybe a week or more. So that's where the supply of EOS will be fixed and will not increase. So purely by the law of supply and demand, that may well cause the token price to creep up in value. And that's not my opinion. I'm just saying purely by the law of supply and demand, assuming the same amount of demand in the market, right? If new people are coming to EOS and discover it and decide they want to buy some, well, that's a steady increase in demand. However, the supply is reduced. Instead of 2 million new tokens come into existence every day, none will come into existence every day. So all that demand is chasing the same amount of supply for this period before the mainnet is actually launched. So if that does happen, demand continues to trickle up and then supply remains flat, I would expect it to be a gradual increase in the token price rather than an outright moonshot, right? The sudden ceasing of 2 million tokens a day, I don't think that's significant enough of a market shock to send the price sky high, right? That's just my personal view on it. So I'm not suggesting you speculate on that. I'm just a market commentator. And what I do in my own trading is my business and my risk. So you have to own your own risks in that regard as well. So let's pivot away from EOS for a sec. I'll come back to it a bit later. But for now, let's talk about LiteCoin added to vrporn.com checkout options. So here we go. This comes directly from the site. Pardon the pun, but this site obviously has its head screwed on. It's pardon the pun. Recently we had all those headlines, right? Where the headlines were on fire with news about Pornhub adding the Verge cryptocurrency as a checkout option and for payment because of its privacy features or however they justified that. But it was still a very strange choice, wasn't it? I mean, Verge is it's a smaller crypto. It's a more obscure crypto, right, than one of the big dogs. And there are arguably better currencies like LiteCoin that could have been another choice, right? It makes way more sense to take LiteCoin as a payment simply because it's more established. It has greater adoption amongst existing merchants, users, exchanges. It has more users in general. LiteCoin is easier to buy with fiat because it's on more exchanges and more gateways. You can trade it on more exchanges. And I would say it's private enough, right? It's private enough. You don't need a super anonymous crypto because buying porn isn't illegal. So you don't need that much obscurity. You know what I mean? You just need anonymity. So that use case is perfectly fine. Now, I linked to this actually from Reddit, the actual blog post on the VR porn website. So it's not like I went there directly because I was just browsing around for my daily dose of VR porn or whatever. What I need to do when I show the screen, though, is just make sure I don't scroll down beyond this because you can imagine what else is on the page. Now, vrporn.com operates a freemium business model. Oh, just by the way, the reason I'm showing the site is just because you can see it's directly from the horse's mouth, right? Whenever possible, I like to go to the primary source because you can see something in a headline all you want. But until the actual merchant, in this case, vrporn.com on their blog, says, yes, we've started accepted LiteCoin, that to me is certainty. But otherwise, it could just be a fake news article or whatever. So like I was saying, vrporn.com, it operates a freemium business model. So they basically offer short clips of like 5 minutes or so, which you can watch for free online. And they publish like new content daily and so on. And then if you want to go for their premium service, which is either $20 a month or $95 a year, then customers get like access to full-length videos. You can download stuff, whatever else stuff. So that's a bit of an incentive to pay for the premium version. And I would say from a business strategy point of view, I'm wondering whether it would be better for them to just sell like the full-length versions of each individual video. I mean, what I mean by that is like they could sell lots of $5 videos rather than a one-off payment of $95, right, for an all-access pass. Hey, who cares? As long as they're using LiteCoin, they don't really care, right? So I'll say it again. Why didn't Pornhub just add LiteCoin payments in the first place? The network effect of LiteCoin is just so much better. The only thing I can think is that maybe Verge gave them like a lump sum up front, right? And maybe Verge thought that by having a big name associated with them, that would help the price. And someone like Pornhub needed convincing with a lump sum amount up front. And maybe that's why Verge had that. They kind of held the announcement to ransom. And they said, unless we raise this much money in donations, we're not announcing it. So that to me sounds like Pornhub was like, well, you're going to benefit from our brand association, give us $1 million, and then we'll add you as a payment option, right? So maybe that's why they held back the announcement until they'd got X amount of Verge raised in the donations, because until then they couldn't pay Pornhub, and then they wouldn't have accepted his payment anyway. You get me? Now, Litecoin's price, I looked at the chart earlier on, Litecoin's price hasn't really reacted to this news at all, which is a good thing in my eyes, right? No drama, just a new merchant, accepting Litecoin as payment, and that just boosts the fundamentals ever so slightly and ever so quietly. And if new people go to the checkout on vrporn.com and find this word Litecoin and go, what the hell's that, and go and research it, all the better for the crypto space at large. So that's that story. The next one comes from btcnn.com. So much creativity in the crypto space, it's not even funny. It's $500 million of Ripple has been lost. Check this. Crypto millionaire Matthew Mellon dies, leaving more than $500 million lost. So this cryptocurrency millionaire guy, Matthew Mellon, died of a heart attack on April the 16th, leaving more than $500 million of Ripple that most likely his family will not be able to retrieve. And it says later on in the article that, here's a quote from him, "Crypto is scary and dark. It's anti-American. I am pro-American, pro-business and pro-bank. That's why I went with Ripple." And it says basically he had drug problems, he was 90 days sober according to his friends, and then he did an ayahuasca ceremony in Acapulco, and apparently that gave him a heart attack and so on, right? So that's that. I've not heard of that before, mind you. That's the first time I've ever heard of someone having a heart attack as the result of taking ayahuasca, but you don't know the circumstances, do you? Anyway, apparently he had these Ripple in cold storage, and he had the various places around the world, and he was the only one who had the password to the hardware wallet. So yeah, no way of getting that out without his password. And if he didn't have an ice pack, as I call it, ICE, in case of emergency, he didn't leave his password or his recovery phrase with anyone he trusted, by the sounds of this article. So that's $500 million of Ripple, which has basically been taken out of supply. So the only time that would ever be retrievable is if at some point, computing power becomes so huge that you can crack the encryption on his wallet. That's just that's far-fetched. It's going to take decades for that to happen anyway. So pretty much $500 million of Ripple gone out of the supply. Now, I'm sorry that, he's died, because if he had drug problems, he was probably suffering from some kind of, depression or psychological hardship of some kind. So I'm not pleased to hear that. And it's interesting to see that he was pro Ripple because he was kind of pro bank. That's kind of interesting at the same time, isn't it? So not funny. You might think, oh, I'm a Ripple holder, so that's great for me. But at the same time, someone's died, so that's never a good thing. He may have been pro bank, but I wouldn't wish death on him. Anyway, that's that story. Let's do the market roundup before we get to the introspection section. Oh, nice to see everyone in the old live chat. Smash up the old likes, as crypto, as Superman would say. Smash up the old likes, people. Smash up the likes. How do I know how many likes we've got? Because I'm looking at the dashboard of the inside of the stream. So how the hell would I know how many likes we got? Don't know. Hey, Brad in Brisbane, Las Vegas. Were you in Brisbane or Las Vegas? Make your mind up. Anyway, let's get to the market roundup. First of all, courtesy of coinmarketcap.com, which I look at to get a general feel for the overall market cap, which is creeping up. Near enough 335 billion, creeping up very slowly. Overall volume creeping up slowly, 16.5 billion today. If you want biggest winners and biggest losers, I like to use onchaineffects.com, which, if I do a quick refresh here, what we got today, we've got Z Classic is the biggest winner, up 23.17% to $15.24. Pretty good. Nebulous, I did see that on CoinMarketCap actually. That's a lower cap coin, but it's up to $7.23 now, having gained 15.84%. And the biggest losers, Theta Coin, which did quite well the other day, is now the biggest loser of the day, down to 24 cents a coin, having dropped 8.32%. And Cash with a Q is now 50 cents, down 4.78%. In the top 20, there's kind of a blend of single-digit gainers and losers. There's no double-digit gainers or losers in the top 10, so that's good for the overall market cap, isn't it? In terms of technical analysis, let's have a look at Bitcoin against the dollar. Yeah, courtesy of, what is it? Bitfinex. Here it is. This may look new if you tuned into the last stream and my technical analysis section. I've drawn this downtrending channel just to see when it breaks out of this price pattern. You know, I was saying it's a technical downtrend still. Well, this visualizes it much better, right? Because you've got the beginning right up here from the 10,000 mark, and then it waves roughly to the bottom of the channel, and then, you know, pulls back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. What we're looking for is when it sort of breaks that pattern. So this previous low didn't pull all the way to the bottom of the channel, did it now? And the pullback has gone right to the top of the channel. So let me just turn off the volume because it's going to get in the way when I zoom in here. I think I've got a scroll mouse today, so I can use the wheel. So what I'm looking at here is Bitcoin rallying up towards the top of this downtrending channel. So one or two things could happen at this point. This could just either be a pullback inside the channel, and then it could resume on again and move, you know, back to a phase one, all the way back towards 6,400, roughly speaking. Yeah, that would look about right if it pulls back and continues the downtrend. But this could also be the time when it decides to break out of this channel and break the trend overall. At the same time, you may see this horizontal dotted line at 7,500, which I've drawn as a support and resistance line, which the price is currently above. So if I put my bullish glasses on, I would say that this is a support level at 7,500, verified by a whole bunch of price action recently. And also you've got the 50 EMA supporting the price. Look at these three candles here from the 31st, the 30th. No, that's beg your pardon. I'm not looking at daily candles. This is all from the 31st over a 12-hour period because it's 3 4-hour candles. So that's supporting the body of those candles, and it's supporting the low of today. So that's supporting the price. 7,500 horizontal dotted line here supporting the price. On the bullish side, however, the trend is in a downward direction. The moving averages support a bearish signal, and also this downtrending line supports the bearish point of view. So the overall direction of the wind is blowing still in a downward direction, and we need to see a lot more price action to the upside before I will signify, you know, a bullish sentiment overall. Bullish signs, but this is only a pullback, a bullish pullback within a larger downward move. So I'm not getting faked out by the temporary bullish movements, you know, because I want to see price movement to the upside. Of course, I want to see that, which is why I give both points of view. But, you know, you got to take the overall wind is still blowing downwards. So you have to assume the probabilities are that it's going to resume the downtrend and then pull back below 7,500 and move towards 6,400, right? So that's that. Nothing really else to say about that. I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm going to take a request in a minute, by the way. So if you want me to analyze your favorite coin on technical analysis, assuming it's supported by CoinG and assuming I see it in the chat in just a moment, I'll check it out. I'm going to do EOS BTC just because I keep talking about the launch and how this might affect the price. So this is Binance, EOS against BTC. And I've got a couple of levels for you. Yesterday, me and a friend of mine were discussing our EOS launch strategy. And I've been banging on about my buy order that's been here for, well, weeks now, I think it is. It's at near enough 133,300 Satoshis, which was the previous, you know, real support and resistance level before we took off in this parabolic move up towards, it was $22, $23 in dollar terms. Or in Bitcoin terms, it was a high of like 244,000 Satoshis. What we determined yesterday, though, as a strategy was to get a portion of Bitcoin and split it into 2 buy orders. One of them at that level that I've always been talking about recently, 133,300 Satoshis, if we saw a bit of a pullback, right? But also the other half of the Bitcoin going in below that at about 94,000 Satoshis. This is in case we do get some serious nosedives in the price. Say, for whatever reason, the market gets spooked by the launch taking longer than expected or whatever, right? It doesn't mean anything's technically wrong with the launch. Prices move when expectation doesn't match reality. So it may be the case that the launch of the EOS mainnet takes days or maybe a week or maybe more. But if the market is expecting it to happen in a few hours and it doesn't, expectations are not met, it doesn't mean fundamentally anything's wrong, but it means it will spook the market because people's perceptions were incorrect, reality catches up, and then they think something is wrong, they perceive something is wrong, and they may sell off, right? That doesn't spook me because I understand technically how the launch is likely to work, so that's why I'm putting my orders in to catch any big sell-offs. But there are 2 eventualities there, right? One, it moons and the launch works first time, fine, I'm already holding a ton of EOS, or it takes a bit of a nosedive, right? And I'm prepared for 2 scenarios. One, where it falls a little bit to 133,000 Satoshis, and where it falls a lot by about 40%, I think it is, down to 94,000 Satoshis. So if you want to model that strategy, go ahead. That's entirely on your head, though. It's not financial advice. I'm not recommending you do that. That's what I'm doing. I'm just sharing that's what I'm doing. Do what you like, but fully accept the risks of your own decisions, and don't just take the word of some guy on YouTube who's just sharing what he's doing, right? Personal responsibility is the order of the day in cryptocurrencies, isn't it? So that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm doing it. Now then, let's move on to the user request. So I'm going to pick a random comment I'm going to go right back towards the top of the chat, and actually the third person in the chat, Electra, not even heard of Electra, to be honest. Gonna have to look up the symbol for it. Electra. The Electra, ECA. So what exchange is this on? Cryptopia, okay, should be fine. ECA, right, so let's do this in real time. I've never looked at this chart before in my life. So I have to take my favorites off on Coinigy and put in ECA. Cryptopia is the only exchange that it's on. It has trading pairs of Bitcoin and, oh my goodness, USDT. Now again, straight away, not a lot of history here. And generally this happens to coins that don't have a lot of history. The first day, you get this anomalous piece of data where it looks like the price absolutely tanks. Because it looks like here it opened at, well, 1,000 Bitcoin, right, per coin. That's what the data set says. And then by the end of the day, it was down to 13 Satoshis. So of course, that looks absolutely catastrophic. So that's actually an outlier in the data. So we're gonna have to filter that out. And because I've got the auto zoom on Coinigy here, if I exclude that bar, watch what happens. There we go. Then there's been another outlier, so we'll get rid of that. There we go. This looks like more normal price action. But again, the problem with analyzing these small caps is the chart looks really, really horrible, doesn't it? It looks really odd. It looks really scattered. The candlestick patterns don't really work out when you've got very, very low volume, because candlestick patterns are based largely on psychology, and what the candles are doing, they're mapping the price, the moment-to-moment price, just whether it's mapping it on hourly or 4 hourly or daily or whatever patterns and so on. So technical analysis is more or less reliable depending on how much volume it's based on. The more volume, the more accurate the technical analysis. The less volume, the more it's just wild random speculation. So I'll do the technical analysis on this. However, I personally wouldn't trade this based on technical levels. So let's just go back to the chart and do what we can do here. I'm going to turn the volume back on to see exactly how much of this stuff is traded, right? So several million coins a day, according to the Cryptopia volume. But on CoinMarketCap, what's the overall volume per day? $400,000, give or take. That's amongst all exchanges though, on Cryptopia, which is the pair we're looking at, it's only $200,000. And, you know, if I were going to make short-term positions, in any given coin, I'd want $5 or $10 million a day, at least, in volume, for me to have any sort of confidence in the technical analysis and the probabilities playing out the way I expect. So that would cause me to say there's no point in analyzing the chart. However, I did say I would do it. So let's go back to it. So the levels are more stark though. I mean, straight away, the first thing I like to pick out is obvious support and resistance levels. There's one right there. Oops, I've still got my settings on from the previously copied support and resistance line, so I need to take out the text on that and change it to a white line. And let's thicken it up a bit so it shows up better on the recording. So that's the first support and resistance level. It's what, 25 Satoshis is the first one. The price action is pretty flat right now because the moving averages are pretty flat. And there's a sort of a consolidation range here, which I'll draw there. This is on the 4-hour chart. Maybe if we put it on the daily chart, that might help us a bit. But again, we're going to have to filter out that noise. This looks like it's only been traded since the 6th of April. So there's very little. That looks better, doesn't it? So on the daily, that looks terrible. If I move the support and resistance level up to these previous candles around the 18th and 19th of April, that looks a bit better. And the previous lows around here. It's on the daily. It kind of looks a little bit bullish, right? Let's get rid of the support resistance levels because they're not very clean at all. I could probably draw a trend of some kind like this. It's not perfect by any means. What I'm trying to point out are like oh god, it keeps jerking every time it tries to re-include that big price bar. But put it this way, there's 2 higher highs and 2 higher lows, right? Which at the most general level is a gentle uptrend against Bitcoin. So if I can draw this friggin' thing, it's not really letting me do it because of that stupid anomaly. Let's try drawing it as an ellipse or something. Where's my shapes? Shapes. I don't really draw shapes, so I don't know where they are. Let's use arrows if I have to. That one. So that's a high. And then another arrow. That's a high. And then I'll draw upward arrow. There's like a swing low there. And then there's a swing low there. Right? So just on that very basic technical analysis there. And then of course you've got this one down here. So let me draw that one as well. I'm going to have to draw it as a downward arrow even though it's an upward movement. So there. So I would draw these points on your own chart and you'll see what I mean. So starting off with the 12th of April, that was a bottom. The 20th of April was a new high. 25th of April was a new low. And then it was a higher high on the 10th of May and then a higher low on the 25th of May. So looking pretty good from that point of view, purely on the daily chart. And barring any market shocks, that looks like just a general uptrend that should continue. But again, with all the provisos that I've just given, right, that it's a very low volume coin, a very low cap coin. So the reliability of the technical analysis is weak, all right? But I said I would do it, so I did it, right? That was just for demonstration purposes, really. So do with that what you will. I would rather recommend you learn technical analysis for yourself. And then just take that proviso that it really only works. It works better or worse depending on the volume, right? So I said I would do it. I did it. So there we go. All right, let's move on to the Deutsche Bank watch before we get into the introspection section, which, fair warning, it's not for the faint heart. The introspection section, so if you want to stick around for that, fine. Deutsche Bank watch, check it out. Pretty bad. Deutsche Bank's definitely in a downtrend. And I was saying that we want to make sure, well, we want to look out for if Deutsche Bank gets anywhere near below $10. Well, right now it's $10.08. And yesterday, the market's closed right now, but yesterday, this is on the New York Stock Exchange, yesterday it hit a low of $10.57, which is pretty bad. And it's been gapping down, right? This looks weird because this is what you see in markets that open and close. If people place orders overnight, they all execute first thing when the market opens. Excuse me, which is why you see, if I zoom right in to the previous day's trading, this candle's miles away from this one. So the close was right up here at $11.57, but the next day it opened at $10.93. Like, how does that happen? Well, because the market opens at a completely different price. That's the downside of markets that have trading hours. And that's the beauty of crypto. Because it trades 24 hours, every open matches a previous close. There are no gaps. There are no gaps because one 24-hour period opens at where the last one ends and so on, which is brilliant. It's much better, in my opinion. So you don't get this kind of thing. So the bad thing was that Deutsche Bank did reach $10.57 yesterday. And when markets open in the US, there's every reason to expect it might gap down again, which is bad for the existing financial system. So not good at all. And the more negative news that comes out about Deutsche Bank, like poor earnings, like we talked about the other day, the more regular investors are likely to dump the Deutsche Bank shares and so on, because it's perception, of course. But actually, the news articles, like we looked at the fundamental financials the other day, they're not doing very well. Year on year, their numbers are down significantly. Like the revenues are down 80% odd, and it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. So there we go. I wouldn't. Well, I don't hold any Deutsche Bank shares. I don't think I hold any shares at all, quite frankly. So that's why we're looking at Deutsche Bank. Righty then. So final section, introspection section, which is that thing that I do now and again. It's a new feature that I've introduced for when I have something more in-depth to say. So today's introspection section is another theory regarding the EOS FUD and the paranoia that's around there. I'm always surprised when I inject a bit of like my personal growth knowledge into the Cryptoverse and it proves really popular. That always surprises me because I intentionally keep that out of my videos because I understand this is a cryptocurrency channel, so I'm only giving you my cryptocurrency self, if you know what I mean. There's obviously many other parts to my personality and character, but I deem it only appropriate to keep the content within a certain set of boundaries. However, that belief is challenged whenever I sprinkle a little bit of personal growth in there, and then people like it. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of challenging my beliefs about keeping the boundaries in there. Now, I'll stop short of turning it into a personal development channel because that would be highly inappropriate. However, dropping a bit in there, here and there, when it's relevant, I think is fine. So today, I decided to do an experiment by going completely off the deep end and see what happens, right? So this is a risk for me, right? So here we go. It's a scientific fact that we live in a vibrational universe. And by that I mean, when you get down to the Planck scale, so the Planck scale is named after the scientist, it's the smallest unit that we are able to measure. This is science, okay? It's called the Planck scale. It's like the tiny mini fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of an atom. Below the quark scale, all the way down, it's the tiniest unit of measurement that exists in our universe based on our current ability to measure. When you get down to the Planck scale, all you get is a tiny bit of energy that appears and disappears, right? It comes and goes. So it goes from one state to another and back again. It goes from being there to not being there, from being there to not being there, right? So that's the basis of all matter. And that's why I say it's vibrational, because a vibration is just something that oscillates from one state to another, like that, right? Except in this case, it's not visual, it's not audio, it's just existence and non-existence. Hard to get your head around, but that is the basis of how matter is built, basically. So that's why I describe it as a vibrational universe. It's all basically made up of ones and zeros, state A and state B. So basically that's at the fundamental level how the universe is built up. So that's concept number one. We live in a vibrational universe because at the Planck scale, everything is vibrating in and out of existence. You can look that up for yourself. Concept number two is that sound is also just a vibration at different frequencies, right? That's why music is so cool, right? Because it's just the changing of vibrational frequencies from one to another. Now, when you play two sounds, let's say you play two different musical notes, and let's say those two notes are on very different vibrations, well, it sounds awful, doesn't it? It sounds absolutely awful because the two vibrations are so different, they're not in harmony. And by contrast, like if you have a chorus, like a chorus or a choir, and they sing in harmony and all the notes are on the same vibration, well, that harmony is kind of beautiful, isn't it? It feels good, it feels great. So that's how we know when something is in like a vibrational harmony and when it's not. And the same goes for all things we expose ourselves to, right? You meet someone, a person, for the first time, and you say, oh, I love their vibe. You can't put your finger on it, can you? Because it's not intellectual. It's kind of emotional or physical. You kind of feel it. You go, oh yeah, I like their vibe, something about them, Or you say, if you're in a conversation with someone, you start kind of getting irritated. You go, look, we're not vibing right now. I'm not vibing with that, you say, right? And that says a lot. So that's basically your awareness of whether the other person you are talking to or around is on the same vibration, right? Just like the two notes on the piano. Are they in vibrational alignment or not? And you feel the discord, right? And then chord, that's another musical term, right? Chord, a chord on the guitar, a chord on the piano, its sound, its vibration, it's all the same thing, right? Now, I don't believe this is limited to just people. I use that example because everyone can relate to it. Someone you just meet and like or don't like and don't know why. You feel their vibe or you're not vibing with them or you are, right? So I don't believe this is just limited to people. It's just the easiest example to set this up because, we're going on a little daisy chain here so I can logically link all this together. And I started with the Planck scale and now we're moving on from there. So I believe this extends to all things in our universe, this whole idea of vibing or not vibing. And I say that because it has to be based on how I introduced this segment. So having set that up with those two concepts, let's bring this back to EOS. I've got a little graphic. This is the EOS sort of symbol. The EOS geometric shape is the sacred geometry of the heart, right? That's its vibrational basis. So the whole purpose of the EOS project is to provide a technological operating system upon which we can build a new world based on love, because that's the heart, right? You love people with your heart. From the bottom of my heart, we're saying all that lot. So that's the vibration that the EOS project is founded upon, right? If someone is vibrating on a very different frequency to that, say from your worldview is fear or it's paranoia or greed or cynicism or something like that, basically something other than a heart-centered approach to changing the world, well, you'd feel the difference, wouldn't you, right? When you expose yourself to something that's very different. And you would feel the difference between the two vibrations, right? It won't feel good, and you'd be forgiven to think that it was coming from EOS, right? Because you'd look at it, you'd feel the discord, and you would think it was coming from EOS. When really it's not coming from you, and it's not coming from EOS. It's not coming from either of those sources. It's simply the result of two different vibrations coming into close proximity. That's what you feel. Just like striking two different notes on the piano, you wouldn't say that the discord was one note or the other. You play them separately and they're fine. So the discord that you hear is when they mesh together, and they don't mesh together very well. That's what you feel. It's a third thing in the middle that's created. So I would also argue the opposite, which is that people who are operating on the same frequency, who are then exposed to EOS, go, oh yes, right? You just feel the vibrational alignment because they're in perfect vibrational harmony with it. So you can say block one this and Brock Pierce that, but they are now only a small part of EOS, which is now this huge community of people who are all coming together voluntarily, who want to put their energy into building a world where we use free market solutions to secure life, liberty, and property for all. The thing is, I was already doing that, right? Way before I ever came across EOS or ever knew it existed. Actually, even before it did exist. Even before cryptocurrency existed, I'd written my mission statement, which was leading people to freedom through education and awareness. That was how I approach everything. That's how I know how to live. That's how I know how to make decisions. It's how I know who to work with and who not to work with. It's how I know what projects to work on and what not to work on, and on and on and on it goes. Even down to how I know what products to buy. All of that comes from my mission and purpose, which I defined for myself beforehand, right? So when I became exposed to EOS, it felt like the most natural thing in the world to get behind it, right? Because it was in alignment. So this is another theory that I offer to anyone watching or listening to this. And I would invite anyone who feels like strong negative emotion towards EOS to kind of investigate that and get to the root of where it's coming from, right? And as my old friend Robert Wagmery says, the basis of every perception is projection. The basis of every perception is projection, meaning what you see isn't coming from the outside, but it's rather what's inside your mind projected outward. But that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. So that is all I wanted to talk about today. So thank you very much for joining me. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. If you hit the dislike button, that's probably because we're out of vibrational alignment, and that's absolutely fine. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed. And if you would like to learn like technical analysis and how to trade cryptocurrencies and do all that fancy stuff that I just did, then check out my new online course. It's the Master Cryptocurrency Trader course. I'll put a link in the description and in the pinned comment below. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go to cryptoversity.com, click courses, click the Master Crypto Trader. There's a special launch offer on where you can get 50% off the price for the first 50 people, and 25 of them have already gone, so get a move on if you want that. I'm also heading to the Tulip Conference on Monday, so look out for some vlog-style reports on the go. That's all for now then. So until the next episode of the Cryptoverse, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.